Man, you're going to wait for 1 week, you come back, everybody is a rock star up in his feet. Oh, wow. Let's take a moment to engage in love, engage in light. Take a moment to engage in our humanity. Let's go and greet somebody. Tell them hi. Look in their eyes. Let them know that they matter. Give them a hug if you can get up and walk. Come on, let's do it for a minute. Say hi to somebody. No, we only got a minute. Love you, Red. Love you. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. All right. All right. Before I get started, I just want to acknowledge our hidden talent. Fifth Sunday is always an opportunity for our congregation and anybody who has a hidden talent. That was Al Banks in the back who was up here singing. Zuma Gonzalez, Aisha Lloyd, and her backup singers. Yeah. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I understand last week that Bayless Webb that Bayless Webb went to heaven and took some of you with him. Well, he offered you an opportunity to change something from not merely knowing what we believe, but to knowing what I believe. I heard the message. It was awesome, Bayless. And we are still talking about change, and we're going to be talking about change all year. And our theme for the month is change something. And the principles that we're working with today, from our spiritual principles and what I believe, principle number 1, and you can find these in the back of your seats as a trifold if you'd like. But principle number 1, see, looks like they're handing out something. Let me let them hand it out and then we can. Yeah. I'm sorry? Yeah, but I just want us to get centered, get seated, get still, that's all. So. Yep. All right. The principles we're dealing with today, spiritual principle number 1. We believe in God, the living spirit, almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existence cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. Number 7, We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. I want to start us off this morning by reading one of the readings from the Science of Mind magazine. This is from October 2017 from the Daily Guide. And it's a reading from one of Ernest Holmes' writing in the Science of Mind magazine from many years ago. So I think it's every October they repost some of his writings in the Science of Mind magazine. And this happens to be one. And it's titled, "The Most Dynamic Reality." And in it he says, "It is true enough that birds of a feather flock together, and that birds do come home to roost. But if we use the mind that God has given us, we can build our own roosts. We can even change something." No, he didn't say that. "We can even change the color of our feathers if we want to. For the divine mind has created a plumage for each one of us and has built a nest in the secret place of the Most High for every living soul. He says that all of us are rooted in the mind of God. We did not plan it this way. This is the way it is. God is still the supreme power, and the divine spirit is still present with us, no matter where we are, no matter what we've done, no matter who we are, no matter what's going on in our life. God is still supreme. And you and I are still supreme in the midst of it, no matter what." So, change something. I think another way of saying change something is to say, slow down. Slow down. You know what I'm talking about. You remember when your mother or your father or your grandmother or your aunties, somebody would say to you, "Slow down before you hurt yourself." You heard that before, right? Slow down before you hurt yourself. And discover yourself. Slow down so you can discover yourself. Slow down so you can become more aware of yourself. Change something. Slow down. Because it is through this awareness that you and we gain greater clarity. Because clarity is needed if you're going to change something. Clarity is needed. But the thing that gets in the way oftentimes, and the reason that we are less self-aware, is because we are more self-centered. The reason we are less self-aware is because we are more self-centered. Centered on ourselves, centered on our limited perspectives about our life. And in addition to that, we're moving fast. And so, moving fast and some of the time not going anywhere. And so when you're moving fast, it's impossible to become self-aware. When you're moving fast, it's impossible to hear and to see the invisible. It's impossible to hear and it's impossible to see. It's impossible to hear what you've never heard and to see what you've never saw. It's impossible to begin to embrace oneness, and it's impossible to begin to embody and embrace wholeness. Slow down before you hurt yourself. I want to read a little bit from the Science of Mind textbook today. I'm reading from page 364. And in it, Ernest Holmes talks about the indivisible whole. He says, what is it we need for greater freedom? Nothing but a greater realization of what we already know. We should never hesitate to say that we know the truth, because we do. For the realization of the unity of God and man is the truth. We simply need a greater realization of this. How are we to get it? Only by penetrating deeper, yet deeper into our own divine nature, pushing further and further back into the infinite. And where are we to do this? There is no place except within that we can do it. And who is to do it for us? No one. No one can. He says, the evolution of the individual, the unfoldment of personality, the enlightenment of the soul, the illumination of the spirit can only come to the degree that the individual himself or herself proposes to let life operate through him or her. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. This is the mind of God, the only mind, the supreme intelligence of the universe. In this reading, he says, the answer to every question is within man, because man is within spirit, and spirit is an indivisible whole. The answer to every question is within you, and the answer to every question is within me. Let me repeat that. The answer to every question is within you, and the answer to every question is within me. And so the problem is sometimes that we're moving so fast, we don't see it. We don't see the answer, and we don't hear it. We don't sense it, we don't feel it, and we don't know it, because we're moving too fast. And we think that, that because we are moving fast and that there is movement in our life, we begin to think that we're moving toward the thing that's needed to change something. We think all of our fast movement, all of our fast moving is leading us to getting something that we need to change something. And this way of living, this fast way of living, mostly is our desire to obtain information. Our desire to obtain information. The information that we think will change our lives. To obtain information that we think will change our lives. And so we get ourselves confused. We think that we are out to discover this life that our soul is seeking, but the truth is that many of us are out to obtain information. We're not on a discovery at all. We're just out to obtain something that we think is going to lead us to change something. We are out to obtain this information that we think will aid us, that will somehow provide us with what we need to be able to do the least, but to expect to get the most. We think this information somehow is going to lead us to getting what we want, that it's going to make it real easy for us to get what we want without any effort on our part. It's a discovery, not a quest out to obtain. We think that this information will make life easy for us. That somehow we'll be able to change something by the information that we have obtained. Or we think this information somehow will be what we need so that we can prove something to somebody. In case you don't know, that's called education. Not spirituality. That's called education, to prove something to somebody. Or sometimes we think that this information somehow will shield us from life and from living. That's the one you really need to take into contemplation with you this week. The information that I'm out to obtain, that I've let go of the desire in me to discover, where I am now obtaining, is it information that will somehow shield me from living and having to engage in life? Because many of us do. That's what we do with the information. And so for us then, this obtaining of information, really what we're out to do is to get just enough information. Just enough information to make it into heaven. Just enough information where you don't have to do nothing. To obtain just enough information to defend and hold on to our own limited perspective and our own limited ideas. Just enough information to be able to do this. Like, you see, the grand invitation is that we live an inspired life. A life of inspiration rather than a quest to obtain information. Now, don't get me wrong. Information has its place. But don't take information and put it someplace that it doesn't belong. Information is needed to inform us. To inform us. Because there'll come a time in this teaching, if you are practicing, where the information, that it is information that moves you to transformation. Information that informs you so that you become inspired. If the information that you're obtaining, if it's not inspiring you, if it's not causing you to change, you're just gaining information to obtain it. We're not here to obtain information. We're here to live an inspired life. We're here to allow the information that comes to us, that flows through us, to inform us so that we become more of who we are and never the less. So that in any moment, it inspires me to become more love. In any moment, it inspires me to become more joy. In any moment, it inspires me to forgive. To change something, to slow down, to live an unhurried life as it is laid out in the Tao. In the 15th verse of the Tao, and I'm reading from Wayne Dyer's book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. It states, the ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. There's no way to describe it. One can only describe them vaguely by their appearance. It speaks of these people as being so watchful, watchful like men crossing a winter storm, alert like men aware of danger, simple as uncarved wood,